What's up, people? Welcome to a very new and very special edition of Wrestle Update. I'm your host, as always, Dylan Fox. And this is the first, I won't say of many because it just depends on how many times that wrestling's in where we're at. But for a very special occasion, I am joined, as always, by Nello de Angelis. He was there live at Double or Nothing tonight. And Nello, I can't believe that this may be one of the last times you see a show there. Is that correct? Or do you have a lot on your agenda?
No, this is the last wrestling show I'll probably go to in Arizona, before I move.
Yeah, although, to be fair, WWE is coming there in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, this will be my last show that I go to.
that Jey Uso title match is not drawing you in?
No yeet.
No yeet. Okay. I like that. But yeah, you were there live. You just got back home, literally. And when I say just got back home, I mean literally a matter of minutes since you have returned from the show itself as we're recording. So this is as close to a live reaction as we could possibly get on this show. How are you feeling? Are you jazzed up? It's definitely a little bit later than usual for our recording, but are you fired up after the show? Was it a downer? Did you just leave there being like, man, I hate this show. I never want to go to another show again, even after I move? What are your vibes right now?
I had such a good time. It felt like I was in a shitty little chair, squished between people, like the live event experiences. It's like flying the back seat and coach pretty much. But I never got tired. When Hangman and Osprey finished, I'm like, damn, I wish they went an hour, honestly. I could have done more. I didn't have any issues with the length, and it was a long show. Like, I noticed the length, but I didn't have an issue with it. So my energy's still high. I was like, I'm not going to go to sleep early tonight. I'm buzzing right now, right? I feel great. I just sang Drowning Pool for like 15 minutes with a crowd of 7,000 people. So it was time to record, time to hang out with my best bud, Dylan.
That's right. That's the power of our relationship. I feel like, the friendship that we've built over the years, before the show, during the show, and the show will just continue forever. I think it will always be a part of our souls, I would say. Even after we're dead, we're going to be recording Wrestle Update somewhere, wherever we go, after we die. Have you been to this arena? Is it the normal arena they run? This Desert Diamond Arena, as it's known as?
No, so the other time I saw AEW, the first couple times was at Footprint, where the Suns play. This was at Desert Diamond Arena, so smaller, I think, and it's where the hockey team used to play. So I'd been there for like Coyotes games, but never for a wrestling event. Actually, I think SmackDown was maybe there too.
One of the few people in attendance at Coyotes games, as I understand it, in the past.
Yeah, they're not here anymore.
Yeah, they're not there anymore. They are now in Utah, as it is. But I like the Coyotes. I thought they were a cool team and a cool brand. Listen, in my opinion, once they changed from the Phoenix Coyotes to the Arizona Coyotes, it was all over. Like, they should have just moved the team right then, in my opinion. You've lost me. You had that branding that I grew up with, and now, like I said, I wasn't really around for the original Jets days but I do know that they moved to Arizona. So they left a few years ago. Long story short, now this arena is now home to the Arizona Rattlers, the Arena Football League team. There, so you were in the prestigious venue. Yes.
Dylan, you don't even joke about it, because we were talking about this at the show, trying to figure out who the Rattlers were. Did you see all of the banners in the arena? This is a dynasty team that we're talking about here. triple championship from 2013 to 2015, winners last year. This is Rattler country, baby. And I just learned about them tonight. So I'm a huge Rattler guy now.
The the indoor football league. Listen, when I was a big fan of Arena League football, I'm not gonna lie to you. In the past, when it was at its peak, probably 25 years ago, when I was a kid, I thought that was kind of like the coolest stuff. When they came out with the video game, I had the PS2 Arena Football League game. I was even fewer people purchased that game than went to the Coyotes games, I would say, and I was definitely one of them. I just thought kicking it off the nets was cool. It was all offense. It was a lot of fun. So I'm very familiar with the Arizona Rattlers. I didn't know that they changed league. The Arena Football League circuit is like the indie scene of wrestling because teams change leagues all the time at this point, and that can never happen in the pro, the true top tier leagues. It's not like the Arizona Cardinals will now jump to the NCAA like to play college teams. That's pretty much impossible. Or a team, the Florida Gators cannot jump to the NFL overall. Like that's not how this works. Like no teams cannot jump. Leagues are not equal. I guess in foreign leagues like the football leagues, soccer style football, that could somewhat be seen as similar in that teams get demoted and stuff when they lose on there. Do you think that could work for like football? Can the Arizona Rattlers jump up into the NFL if that were possible? That's what I want to know.
I think
So
the Rattlers are the next Kansas City Chiefs. Dynasty waiting to happen.
You are a believer in the Rattlers, and you just found out about them tonight. But they're a legacy team. There's been tons of turmoil in the Arena League. I know that Bon Jovi also owned a team back then. But that said, as I said, his team is called the Philadelphia Soul, and he actually owned the team. And it was a fun league back in those days, but now it's the indoor football league. Things are not looking so hot. But regardless, the arena, you said it yourself. These seats sucked. Not in terms of the view, but in terms of the seats themselves. The architecture of the Desert Diamond Arena is not up to par, in your opinion. But
no,
that said,
seats are like this half the size of an ass cheek.
Wow,
they're giving you one cheek, not both.
That sounds really unpleasant, to be honest with you. Even with this show being the quality it was, you said I don't need both cheeks for this show. So I like that. I'm partial to both cheeks, but hey, that's just me. But I'm not so in a wrestling sense. A wrestling sense, all bets are off. And you got to see this show live. And I'll start as I always do. We just came off of our very intricate episode talking about the state of the scene right now in terms of the major league companies. Both AEW and WWE being talked about pretty in depth. Really in depth, actually. 3 hours worth in depth, some would say. Too in depth to some people. But not us. We had a lot of fun actually doing that. But that said, when you look at the show, when you look at the company, what were your vibes like for this show in particular? Were you excited about a lot of the stuff here? Were you thinking, oh man, this is kind of a filler show, it seems like? What were you thinking heading into the show?
I was really excited. I was like, everyone that I wanted to see was on the card. Like all the big names, even Shibata was like, it was like all the people I wanted to see got on in like varied random ways somehow. So I was really grateful for that. There was nothing that I wasn't really looking forward to. Even like Sons of Texas are like the worst to me, but I was so excited to see the Hurt Syndicate that it didn't matter.
That's true.
Yeah, I was at like a 10 out of 10 level excitement going in.
Okay, that's cool. I liked what they did in terms of, in terms of the build up to this show. I would rate it I thought the go home angle with the brawl segment building up Anarchy into the arena was pretty freaking great, to be honest. I thought that felt like that made the Anarchy a match that, in all honesty, it's not like there were that many stakes on the line to it, but even still, just the chaotic nature of it made it seem like, oh man, this match is going to be nuts. Somebody could die. This is going to be awesome. I thought they did a great job with that. I thought that they did fun. Like the promos got a lot of talk for the Owen Hart tournament finals, particularly the women's promo, particularly Jamie Hayter. A lot of people were praising her promo, and I thought that the promo was good. Don't get me wrong, but I also think it feels like this is kind of a not great standard set by Mercedes. That was considered this exceptional promo. And really her herself. I mean, she has not found her footing yet heading into this match, I would say. So I was very excited to see what they would do here for this match. But before we get to the main show, though, they started off with Anna Jay and Harley Cameron taking on Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. They've been kind of doing this feud on TV. It's pretty minor, like all things considered. I think that Megan has definitely been the one carrying the in-ring sector of this match. I thought that of the two matches on the pre-show, it was definitely the lesser one. And I really have no interest in seeing any kind of Anna Jay push, I'm sorry to say, even in a tag team with Harley. But they were fun. The crowd was hot right away. And the multi-man tag was really fun. The crowd was into it. They had AR Fox, Bandito, Hologram, and Commander. They took on Crew and RPG Vice. It was a really good spot fest match, what you would want an opening match to be. Did you kind of have a feeling right away when the show started in the buy-in section? Were you like, man, this crowd is going to be something?
Yeah, I mean, dude, even for that Anna Jay match, people were hot.
Yeah.
So, and that was from the get-go, and that was also a really good match to put first because you figured out who the perverts were immediately.
Okay.
So, because like oh my God, there was probably the two oldest men in our section. It was two 50-year-old guys who had the exact same voice and they both sounded like Jim Cornette. It was honestly fucked up. Like I thought it was a bit because one guy would yell something perverted, like Anna Jay. He'd be like, Anna Jay's fat ass. He's like, give me a ride. And I'm just like, God damn it. Like, this is my least favorite thing about live shows, right? Or these types of fans. And then the guy behind him would yell like something similar, but it's like they didn't hear each other, but they were basically saying the same shit in the same exact voice. He eventually stopped talking, which was awesome. But yeah, like this was a really fun opener. Lots of cool high spots in the Bandito match when they did the flips off the post while like AR Fox and God, I think Commander like hit the topes was really fun. The all four corner, what did they do? Shooting stars?
I think it was a moonsault, but it may have been the shooting star.
Okay. It was all really fun. I like in between the two matches, it was pretty dead in the arena. I personally would have liked just to be able to have heard like the backstage videos that they were playing on the screen. There was no audio for them. So just to have had something in between those because it felt like they opened up the pre-show and I don't know what the home experience was like, but then there was this big lull and then they did the final match and then the pay-per-view started. So just would have liked something in that middle section to pad it out.
Yeah, I totally understand that for sure. They ended up moving on pretty quick, as you said, from the buy-in to the regular show, and they pretty much got right to the action right away. They started us off with the women's Owen Hart Cup final, Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter. They started off where Monet kind of got the advantage early on for technical stuff, but Hayter kind of overpowered her a lot. With some big clothesline, she hit the bicycle kick at one point, and they did some stuff going in to the ringside, where they went outside, and Mercedes again tried to do more technical stuff to kind of bring her up with submissions. She had this bow and arrow hold and things like that. She ended up like messing with the crowd a little bit to kind of heal on them a little bit. That led to the three amigas at one point, and they ended up going on and going to have a good back and forth match where they tried to go for the flash pin counter sequence that has becoming ever so popular in American TV wrestling for some reason. We saw it like on 3 different shows in WWE like in the last month, and they did it here too when it comes to women's matches in particular for some reason. Hayter ended up getting some power spots, looking for the Hater raid, but Monet ended up trying to fight off for it. She ended up countering into this like twisting inside cradle for the win. The fans were pretty hot for it, not as hot as they would get for the major matches, but they were into this, and this match got a 9 out of 10 on the cage match inmates so far. We're still very early on. Like, as I said, you just got home. Not a ton of votes at the moment. We're still in the very early going, so it may get lower. A lot of these may get lower, may get higher in certain cases. But 9 out of 10 straight. Mercedes and Jamie. What was it like live?
Fantastic opener. The crowd really, really wanted Jamie to win, like to the point where you could feel the energy get sucked out of the room. And I would actually say that for the live crowd, like the up until the Tony Storm match, your first 5 matches were technically all heel wins. And I include the Hurt Syndicate because they are the heels, but people at least like them. But I mean, FTR, Mercedes, Ricochet, and Okada, all of those had fiery baby faces that the crowd was firmly behind. So it was kind of like, I would say that was the biggest letdown out of all of them. I didn't really have highest hopes for Mike Bailey to beat Okada tonight or anything like that. But I really thought Jamie needed this win. It felt like the crowd wanted her to win this so that she could get back to where she was. Like, her performance in this match felt star making. Like, I think that this is exactly what she needed. I really liked this. And I think that for me, I'm going to go 8. And I think that if Jamie had one, then I would call this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If Jamie had won, I would have liked it better. I thought that would have been a cooler moment with the fans, and it just would have been something unexpected. I mean, Mercedes has never really lost in AEW, to be honest with you, and I didn't really expect her to lose here for that exact reason. And I thought that Jamie's done a great job. She has gained a lot. Again, I didn't love her match with Statlander, and I was really disappointed by it, to be honest. And I was really not that hot coming into this match. But I thought her great promo work on Dynamite, and then this match definitely feels like she's going in the right direction, at least. And we'll see what they can do. I mean, there's so many people that end up getting lost in the shuffle a lot of times after these losses. But I definitely think she's someone that shouldn't be forgotten, and she still has something. She still has a bit of what she used to have. I think this match did prove that. I like the direction they're going in with Statlander, teasing a heel turn against Willow, and I think that Jamie is somebody that can really be a good, like, babyface figure in the division for sure. I thought the match itself was like, I would give it a 7. You know, I 3.5 star, 3 3/4 range. I didn't love this like the inmates apparently, but it's only because of this reason. I thought that of the 21 minutes that they wrestled, I would say like 15 to 17 of those were really good and maybe even great. I thought the opening segment took a little bit to get going where they wanted. And I thought the ending didn't really work. Not only was it a flat finish for the crowd, but also Mercedes didn't really pull off the flash pin she was going for. It looked really awkward and sloppy. So the beginning and the end, I didn't think were that great, but everything in the middle was pretty great overall. And I thought it was a strong opener for sure. Definitely well worth watching. And we kind of figured that. Well, I don't think anybody thought Mina was gonna win the title. So this to me was what I was thinking was gonna happen. And hopefully they don't forget about Jamie going forward. 'Cause I think that she's really gained a lot of steam in really the last week of all of this, and it shows you how fast things can turn around in wrestling, and how you can't give up on people too early. Up next, we had Nigel McGuinness coming out. He teamed with Danny Garcia, taking on FTR, and obviously Daddy Magic was at ringside along with Big Stoke on FTR. These two had been doing a feud where basically they did some stuff. Nigel ran in. They did this big apology angle where Nigel apologized to Danny, but Danny was like, "No, don't apologize. Like, you're a badass wrestler. Let's me and you team up and take out FTR." And at first Nigel was like, "No way, they're gonna kill us. I don't want to wrestle them." And then Danny was like, "Stop that crap. Let's go." And Nigel was like, "Okay, let's do this." They had a brawl and collision to build this up. And here we are, a rare Nigel wrestling match here. I like that they really kind of milked, they milked Nigel coming in. They started off with Garcia. You had FTR taunting Nigel from inside the ring, and they were really building up to a big hot tag to Nigel. And when that happened, it really worked. But then they did a smart thing too, I thought, cutting off the first one where they double teamed Nigel a lot. I like that the first Nigel appearance wasn't just him totally flipping the match on its head. He had his run, don't get me wrong, but I like that they went back to a control segment to build up to more. So they went on. I thought that Nigel and Danny had very little in the way of teamwork or anything like that. I think one of the best parts was when Danny had the Dragon Tamer and Nigel had the London Dungeon in at the same time. I thought that was pretty cool. And there was a great spot where Nigel, because that's another thing that was a big part of their promo, where they said something to Tony Schiavone, and Nigel's like, "Don't you ever talk about this man in front of me." And so he actually drug Cash over to the table, and he made him apologize to Tony on commentary. It was pretty great. I don't know if that came through on the live show, but that's what he was doing there.
Yeah, no, it looked like they were doing a lot with the commentary table throughout this match. So I actually wanted to ask what was going on. So thank you.
Yes, that is true. That is why you have me here. I watch the show and I'm not just making stuff up randomly as we go along. But it was good. There was a great spot too, where they went back to the outside. As you said, they did that again. Nigel was looking for the Tower of London, but instead they countered it into the Shatter Machine on the floor. And that's when Schiavone was he left up to go check on him, and FTR was being dicks to it pretty much. So that left Danny in the ring alone. And they ended up doing some pile driver work. But in the end, Garcia got to the ropes. Dax locked in the sharpshooter. And then Cash ended up knocking out Daddy Magic, knocking out Nigel, and then made fun of Garcia as Garcia passed out in the sharpshooter. So a completely dominant win for FTR here. I had no use. I'm getting kind of sick of this pass out finish stuff. It's a finish that should be great for all intents and purposes, but they've really prostituted it, and not just AEW, not just these guys, but wrestling as a whole lately. I feel like in WWE and AEW, there was no reason for this. Danny didn't need protection. We're putting FTR here. Nigel had no problem doing the job. He's going back to being a commentator. I was a little surprised it was this definitive, but they should have just had him tap out, in my opinion. But other than that, it was a good match. I thought that Nigel looked really good. It was a little long for what is really not that of an important match. I don't think either team really gained that much other than it was cool to wrestle Nigel. Like that was really the big draw of this match was everything revolving around him. And he just got dropped. Danny lost. Daddy Magic got dropped. Tony got made fun of. It's like this was a total heel win here. But it was a good match, though. The action was good. I thought Nigel looked really strong. And FTR, they've done a very effective job, not just building them up, but their performance as heels has been really strong. I have to admit that. Even though to me, I still admit nothing against their wrestling, which I think is great. As characters, they don't really do a lot for me. I think that they need a better story going forward in the future to really bring them out of this whatever funk they're in. But I think as wrestlers, they're always good for this second match on the card role. What did you think of the match?
This was the second longest match on the show. There's no reason for this to be the second longest match on the show. 23 minutes. So I was sat like you could see me on TV the entire time the night. I was just in like that section right behind the ring. Okay. And so something I noticed because that was my first ever time sitting in that section is like there's an actual clock with like the seconds and everything on it that show like that's basically right underneath the hard cam. So it was cool to see like, you know, a wrestler maybe notice it and be like, we have 1 minute to go home or whatever, right? But that's to say, like I said earlier, I noticed the length of the show. I didn't feel it as much, but this is where I really noticed it because we were an hour in and 2 matches done. And I was like, if all of the matches are going to get time like this, I'm not going home early tonight at all. And I felt like by the end, this was one of the longer AEW shows. But I still don't necessarily think that was a bad thing. But that was my biggest complaint about this match is that it just did not need to be 23 minutes. It was bucket list to see Nigel wrestle live. Something I never thought I'd get to do. So unbelievably cool. This is my first time seeing Daniel Garcia since an Evolve show at a Catholic church in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn in like 2019. He was in a four-way with Kurt Stallion. This is when he was just like young little Red Death. Gargano and Ciampa were doing a signing at the show. They were with NXT already, but there was like when NXT stars would show up at Evolve or whatever. Like it had the show also. I think we've talked about this once before on this show, but it had Austin Theory versus Babatunde, and then the main event was Walter versus JD Drake. So it was a pretty cool show, but it was just really sweet to see Garcia from not the bingo hall, but the Catholic Church to the arena. There was some good moments in this match, but this always felt like the outcome always felt very apparent of like FTR is going to get a dominant win, and they did, and it just took too long to get there. I'm totally with you as well, in that I am not a fan of these pass out finishes. And maybe it's do you think AEW does it as often as WWE does? Like, is this something they're picking up from them? Is this an industry wide thing? Is this happening in Japan like too? Like,
it feels like an industry wide thing to me. There wasn't really anything like that in terms of Japan that I can remember. Like no pass out finishes of late. But that said, definitely in WWE and AEW, there's been a lot more lately, and I think it's about time like we give this up. Like, come on now, we don't need this. Didn't they do something similar to this, like with Garcia and Adam Cole, where he didn't tap out? Like that wasn't that long ago, right? When they were feuding over the TNT title.
Oh yeah. Maybe that's just Garcia's thing. He's a submission expert because he doesn't tap out. He can take any submission.
Yeah, that's pretty badass stuff there, Danny. But like, yeah, I wasn't a fan of the finish. But I liked it that it was so dominant. That's something that you kind of rarely see in AEW, where somebody just gets a completely solid win. And in the other tag match, you kind of had that, but you had to get this. What we'll talk about later with that. There was another storyline they wedged in there that we'll talk about soon. But this one, it was like no bullshit. Like they just destroyed the baby faces, which is good. Like they're the ones that's going to be moving forward, and we'll see where they go from here. I have an idea of it, but I think that they're in a good spot. I think what they're building up, if things play out how they think they might, could be really great, actually. And it was just a cool moment for Danny to team with Nigel as well. Like, even though it's a loss, even though I didn't like the finish, that's cool for him to team with Nigel. They got a 7.60 rating from the inmates so far. What say you?
I'd go 6.
Yeah, I think so too. I didn't think this was a great match, to be honest. Just too long, like you said. And I mean, like you said, the show itself was too long. But that said, there was other stuff that was long that delivered huge, and this was not one of them. We go to the stretcher match with Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe. Mark comes out with a little bit of hair on his head here, as we cannot do Ricochet's bald thing with two bald guys and it'd be logical. I mean, the fans didn't mind. Like they were free to play with it. But here, Mark, he put enough care into it to grow some hair out, at least. So, what did you think of this stipulation, the stretcher match? And I think we'll all agree everything Ricochet did with Zach Gowen was great. Overall, like that was wonderful television and top tier heel work. I don't love that it led to this pretty much random ass match that became a stretcher match for some reason. But I love the idea of these two fighting on paper, so I will give them that. But what did you think of it being a stretcher match?
So, two things. One, when I heard it was a stretcher match, my mind said Ricochet is going to do some really cool stuff, and any sort of gimmick match like this is made for Mark Briscoe because he's fearless and he'll do really cool stuff and he'll make a way to make it unique. Two, once I saw the main event and how the ambulance factored into that finish, it made a lot of sense why they did the just like stretcher match. Like it's a fun gimmick and it justified this ambulance that they could go back to or whatever without it feeling like so out of place. Also, Briscoe coming back later on with all the blood on, I was like, I bet Dylan's smiling right now.
That was fucking awesome.
Yeah. But no, I was excited. I went to Vegas once for Jimmy Lloyd's birthday party, and one of the things they saw was Speculate versus Matthew Justice in a casket match. And so going into this match, I was like, I hope it's as fun as that, and it was. So what did you think?
I also did hear on the press call or whatever they had heading into the show that a big reason for the stretcher stip was that because of Sabu's recent passing, he wanted to honor the famous stretcher match that Sabu had with RVD in ECW, which he claimed he was there live in attendance for. And it was
Briscoe?
Sabu. Tony Khan said that on the call.
Okay.
Yeah, and he said that's why he made it a stretcher match. Or he didn't say it like that, but he more or less alluded that was a big deal, that he was there at that match.
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool. Like that's a great story overall. They did some cool stuff. Ricochet at one point did like a flip over the stretcher, and like was acting all like smug about it. He was taunting and like being like, "Fuck yeah, did you see what I did?" And then Mark immediately like ran the stretcher into him to break up celebration. I thought that was cool. Mark is just so charismatic. He's so fun to watch. This is why I said he should be one of the building blocks of AEW, one of the pillars, in my opinion. They actually did a Sabu tribute here with Briscoe with the chair stuff at one point. Although Ricochet did throw the chair at him right away. They went out to the stretcher. Mark's busted open. Muda scale all over the place. Fire extinguishers going crazy. Froggy Bow at one point with a table through the table. Ricochet hits him with the scissors, has become his kind of signature move. And he had another pair of scissors when it looked like Mark was about to win. And immediately Mark grabbed the scissors at the end, but then Ricochet just kicked him in the balls. And then set up another spot with the scissors. Spirit gun, put him on the stretcher, put him in the ambulance, and he won the match. So it was really more of an ambulance match than a stretcher match in a lot of ways. Some would say.
Yeah, is there typically a difference between the two, or is it just like like no DQ versus hardcore kind of gimmick?
Remember that one? I only remember this happening one time. I don't remember this happening even in WWE. I always remember it involving an ambulance. But I remember they did that one stretcher match. Remember when after Shawn Michaels beat Flair and ended his career at WrestleMania 24, Batista was pissed about it, and they did that stretcher match where they had to push him across a finish line, across the stage to win?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really lame. Even as I was still pretty young then, as like a young teenager. I thought this is stupid. Why? What difference does it make? And I remember that Jericho. Remember when he had his heel turn, where he came out in a suit and he was like, "Y2J's dead" and all that bullshit. And he's like, "I'm gonna talk really slow and boring and blah blah blah." This was right before that, and I remember Jericho ran out to they did a tug of war with Michaels on the stretcher where Batista was trying to push him across the line on the top of the ramp, and then Jericho was trying to keep him from going over and push it back. But that's the only time I remember a stretcher match not ending in an ambulance. And it's a lot better. If they had done that stipulation, this match would have been a lot worse, in my opinion. But yeah, this was good. This was really good. Lots of effort, as you would expect.
Lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, tons of effort, as you would expect from Mark. And Ricochet, everything he does is just a lot of fun. He's one of the most fun characters to watch in wrestling right now. He just really gets this heel work better than anybody ever could have believed, I think. And he's a perfect foil for Mark Briscoe. And like you said, in this kind of gimmick match, it's a 100% chance that Mark Briscoe is going to be awesome in it, pretty much. And I thought he did a great job here. And I thought it was a really strong match. The crowd was buying in. Very, very strong. This was my... I actually like this better than the opener, personally.
Remember the pay-per-view that had that random Adam Cole, Chris Jericho hardcore match?
I do. I believe it was a Double or Nothing, in fact.
And because it was like, why would you do this on a show where there's already Anarchy in the arena? They did it again, and this was so much better, and it shows you that great wrestlers can do great things.
That's right. Double or Nothing, and the special referee was Sabu in that match, in that Jericho versus Cole match. So all of this comes together to really be something special. But yeah, this was way better. That match was absolutely awful. Like that Jericho and Cole match. This one was really great. It's got an 8.50 rating. I would give it an 8, personally.
Yeah, I go 8 as well.
Very good. They moved on to the World Tag Team title match. The Hurt Syndicate taking on the Sons of Texas. The team you're most down on in wrestling right now, the Sons of Texas. Did you say they were the dirt worst at the start of the show?
No, I don't want to be rude towards dirt. They are god awful. They are it's
or Dustin.
No, not poor Dustin. Dustin's got to have a long career. So
that's true. And the thing is, I liked his wrestling in this match a lot better than his promos, where he comes across like a rambling old bastard most of the time, even against MJF, where he's the first thing he said was literally he comes out yelling on the mic and MJF, he's like, "I hate you, you son of a bitch." And it's like, why? Why did you go so hard? You just walked out, dude. Calm down.
Yeah, like it's the Hurt Syndicate has the pro and the con of being so over and dominant that like no other team for the most part should have a fighting chance. So going into this, to me, I was like, Sons of Texas are lower on the totem pole than a Crew to me, because at least Crew is a AEW tag team, not an ROH tag team that's had
Yeah.
development on television that I see weekly. If it's in the crowd or in the ring, whatever, but I see them weekly. So I
And
was
they
really
have fur
hoping,
coats too.
yeah, they have pointy coats. Don't forget
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Um, I was hoping for it to be Crew just because there's a fun dynamic in history between Lashley and Rush, and I wanted to see two sort of high flyers go against these two powerhouses versus an old man and like the most failed AEW project that I can think of. Um, and like, maybe NXT could be a refresher for Sammy, but I feel like he's really just there's no salvaging him. Like, do you remember the politician Howard Dean?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Remember when he went like he fucking ruined his whole presidential run? It feels like Sammy Biad a while ago. And there's just like the reason they put him with Dustin Rhodes feels like to sanitize him as like this charming young baby face, but like it just feels disingenuous and fucking lame. Like, why is this young kid hanging out with this old man again? Like, didn't
I'll
we just do this with Jericho? So this is all
yeah.
very long-winded way to say that it pissed me off that Hurt Syndicate had to sell for these guys, especially Dustin. Like I thought that this match should have just been a straight up squash. These are your Ring of Honor tag team champions. They shouldn't even be on AEW, much less fighting for the actual tag titles. Like this was just really bad booking, but one of the most fun atmospheres of the night. Saying "We Hurt People" is maybe like the only wrestling chant where you get to feel cool while saying it.
Like even you get to feel like a badass in the
Yeah,
crowd chanting
we
this.
hurt people. It's just fun. It is so fun. And they are so cool. And it's like
Yes, they are extremely
this
cool.
that's what bothered me is that they had to hang out with these geeks and pretend like they like I thought the crossroads near fall and all that stuff, like you just didn't need it. Like because I felt like they still wanted to get some like to me for a Hurt Syndicate match, I don't need a false finish to make it exciting. I want to see a dominant showcase for the Hurt Syndicate. Like I feel like that's the thing, right? Is they have two monster heels who are the most popular act, one of the
Yeah, who are
most
actually the
popular
most over
acts in the
baby faces.
company. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? And it's like, so lean into that, redefine the squash match and figure out what you can do with these guys while you build up an actual division rather than just like throwing in a tag team of the week and giving them a single false finish and thinking like that's enough.
The thing is, so there's a lot there, and not to get political on anyone, but it shows you where the country was at 20 years ago, where a guy who just yelled out in passion was considered like too crazy to ever be a president in 20
Oh,
years
yeah,
ago.
right. Right?
Yes, exactly. And he was like one of the most normal presidents outside of that like one excitable speech. Not that he was a president, but a normal candidate at the time. Um, the problem is everything you said about this match is also applicable to all three of their pay-per-view matches since winning the tag titles. I really agree with the essence of what you're saying. Like I said, all three matches should have been squashes, like under 3 minutes, like level. There's no need for them to go long. Like they should be destroying these guys. I think of all the matches, I will say I think this was by far their best one. Like And that's still, like, arguably the worst match on the show. Probably the worst match on the show, honestly. But A, the show was awesome. And B, they at least had a reason to go longer. Now, I agree with you completely about Dustin, to be honest with you. And I've always respected his game. Like, in the ring, I think he's a great wrestler. I loved his match with Cody at the start that he brought up. I loved, like, much of his run as a wrestler, to be honest with you. But in 2025, you're not gaining anything by pushing him. And in Ring of Honor, he's a double champion currently, which is absurd. The dynamics of this tag team are stupid. But I did love how on Dynamite, MJF called Sammy white trash, and his whole deal is he's like Latino. Like, he's the Spanish god. And MJF called him white trash. I have to say, Sammy, this team is stupid, all things considered. The aesthetic of being the son of Texas does not fit him at all. Their styles as wrestlers also don't go together.
No, it feels like a rehabilitation job. It's like when it's like if you're a celebrity and you get caught doing something with like bad, right? And then they're gonna pair you up with like someone else to give you some good exposure. And it's like, oh, this is like, oh, I have to do my Dustin Rhodes apology tour right now. Sorry guys, I have to go to Ring of Honor and
he didn't even do anything this time. Like I said, in the past, he's definitely done some stupid stuff, like for sure. But this time he didn't even do anything. Like he just went to Ring of Honor. Tony got bored with him, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that the ship has sailed on him. They did so many Jericho turns. Like, he was at Big Show level of turning for a while there, where he was a heel 1 week, babyface for another.
Remember when he was in the Don Callis family? He was the third member.
Yeah, that was like the early days of the family, so to speak.
Yeah, it was him, Hobbs, and Takeshita.
Yeah, and I at the time, I'm sure I liked the team itself, and I think he's got I don't think it's like he doesn't have a place. I like the idea. Me and somebody on Twitter were talking before the show, building up this match. What I wanted to see was they just destroy Dustin at the start. Like, blade job, blood all over the place. Like, they beat the hell out of him. And it builds to a hot tag for Sammy, who would come in, maybe hit like 1 or 2 high-flying moves, and then they destroy Sammy and bloody him to a pulp. And they beat them both and squashed them forever. That's how this match should have gone, pretty much. But the team sucks. The Sons of Texas, it doesn't fit. I don't mind them as wrestlers, like, at a certain level. Like, I don't think that there's no place for a Sammy Guevara on your roster. I just don't think it's teaming with Dustin Rhodes and fighting the Hurt Syndicate one-on-one. But the problem is, though, the match it had to be this way because this was not really even about the Sons of Texas or rehabbing anybody. It was to get over the MJF story more. So they had to have a team that could push them a little bit. Enough to get a near fall. As you said, it wasn't necessary. You were totally right. But the MJF push is what spurred this on. And I completely hate this. I think it's a total waste of time and a total waste of the Hurt Syndicate. And I can't wait till it's over. Like, they should have destroyed this man already. Him even joining, honestly, kind of makes the group feel lesser, in my opinion. Like, they're not what they were with him in it. And I do think we all know that this is going to end with them beating the shit out of him. They've already teased a breakup in this very match. They did it. With him trying to hand the ring to Shelton, and Lashley was like, dude, fuck you. Like, get out of here. I also have to say, I love the finish where Shelton just destroyed Sammy with that super kick he hit on him. That was awesome. But I didn't like the angle stuff with MJF. My idea is I think that MJF will eventually recruit FTR, like the top heel team, and we solidify the Hurt Syndicate as baby faces, which should have already been done. Like in my opinion, like I think that they should have just, like you said, just roll with it. Why are we fighting the fans? They're two of the most over people on the roster. Just make them baby faces. It's fine. And I think we're getting to that point where they have to rehab the division a little bit. We talked about that last week when we talked about AEW. I think they're trying to do that, and that could be, to me, an all-in level match, FTR versus Hurt Syndicate for the tag belts. I would hope that MJF is not involved, but they could also spin off in something like that as well, like a singles match with Lashley and MJF. But I like them as tag champions. To be honest with you, I don't think they've even scratched the surface of what they could do. As like, I think we made the comparison before. These guys are your Road Warriors. You know, nobody said no. Why are you booking the Road Warriors in 12-minute matches with geeks? You know, like that never happened. Why would you do that? And when WWF tried to do that bullcrap, it sucked, and nobody liked it. So hopefully they learn a lesson. But the match itself, I thought was pretty good work-wise, but booking-wise, it was very bad, and I hated the stuff with the MJF on all of that. But at least gave them an excuse to have a. Like I said, the other matches I thought were worse because they just hung in there with them. Here, they at least had an excuse for Sammy to fly in and Dustin to get the near fall, even if I don't like it. So, a fine match. I wouldn't say great. I wouldn't even say that good, but I'd say a 6 out of 10. I'll be nice and try to separate the booking. It's like a 1 out of 10 booking, but a 6 out of 10 match.
I would go 6 out of 10 as well. I think that Hurt Syndicate had their best spots so far. The spear through the barricade, especially, was a highlight.
Look good. 6.83 rating on Cage Match as we speak. We'll see how long where that ends up, because they did have the lowest amount of votes so far as well on the show. We went to the Continental title. And like I said, basically a comedic feud almost, building this up with Speedball and Okada. But there was a very funny spot again. Okada, I like his comedic timing. The beatdown segment on Rush and Mike Bailey was fun, but Okada's reaction really made it. And then I loved the fake out of not saying the bitch at the end of his promo on Speedball, which was fun. I definitely enjoyed that. How did you think this match was getting over with the crowd here? Because I think this was like Speedball's biggest spot by far. How do you think the crowd, and Okada as well? Like, you know, this was a spot that Okada, he's been in the dregs of the promotion pretty much. Like, no effort all the time. This was his chance to actually try. How do you think the crowd took to these two?
So, being there, the crowd had a respect for Okada. You could tell that when he came out, he felt like a big deal. Like, we are about to see Okada wrestle a pay-per-view match. Like, his aura from being the best wrestler in the world in New Japan has still carried over, even though he has not done that much in the past year to really warrant that. He's still the fucking guy, and the crowd was hot for Speedball. Tons of Speedball chants breaking out pretty constantly. And this was a match that I think was exciting at the start, but like absolutely had the audience by the throat by the end of it.
Yeah. I thought this was a hell of a match, to be honest with you. I thought they did good, like near fall spots, flash pins to keep Speedball, and to keep the match going well, you know, like keep breaking up the monotony, so to speak. They did some good counters where Okada blocked the Shooting Star knees at one point. They did some stuff. I like the strike battle they had too, where like seeing them especially together like this really emphasized that Okada had a lot more size at Speedball. But I like how Speedball had the speed advantage even with the striking. So he was knocking Okada on his ass a little bit with the kicks and stuff like that. And I really like that. And they ended up doing the big dropkick spot we've seen off the turnbuckle for Okada. They went in with a good counter to the Rainmaker 2 where Speedball hit this like spinning heel kick. Looked really good. And Okada was going back and forth. They did some stuff where he went back and forth with repeated Rainmakers, but they did a spot where Speedball got one more flash pin, better than Mercedes' earlier in the day, I will say. And in the end, he went for the Ultimate Weapon, but Okada countered it into a drop kick. Great spot. And then the Rainmaker lays it all on the line for Okada, gets the win. I thought Speedballs looked great pretty much like the whole time, in AEW. And I think Okada, he's doing good when it matters most and just kind of lackadaisical in all of the other situations. But this was definitely better than his match last month, to be fair, at Dynasty. So I give him credit for that he showed up. He didn't give Brody the level of respect as we got with Speedball. And Dynasty, that was at Revolution. That was 2 months ago. To be honest with you, who did Okada face in Dynasty? Oh,
Who did
I'm looking at it on Cage Match. Nobody. The answer. He wasn't even on that show.
Was that the show where he just came out after and looked at Kenny?
Oh yeah. Well, that was the Australia show, right?
Who knows?
Because remember he yeah. Well, he did wrestle on TV when he had the match with Kevin Knight. Now that was okay, and those matches weren't anything as good as this, though. Yeah, it's got a high rating on Cage Match. It's got an 8 out of 10 rating.
This was one of my favorite matches of the night. I was really excited to see both of these guys, much less wrestle. This was a match where it was for the sickos. It was added last minute. They didn't need much story for it because they still pulled off a banger. These are two guys who you don't need some sort of program for a great match. This is hopefully the first of many good matches for Okada. I think that he needs a little bit more stuff in the ring like this leading up to All In. We know who the fuck Kenny is. Let's really see who the fuck Okada is now. And just a really great show for Bailey. And I hope he continues to be featured prominently.
Absolutely agree. I think he's done a great job. Like I said, ever since he's come into AEW, in the middle of that comedy segment, there's a funny part too where Okada did not the Roosh beatdown at first. When Okada, he was like, "You're a bitch," and then Speedball, he had a very funny reaction where he pointed to himself in a very comedic way. He said, "Me, me, I'm a bitch." It was very funny. But yeah, Speedball fucking rules. I think that's been clear to everybody. It's funny because you go back to that famed triumvirate of Ospreay, Okada, and Mercedes. And Ospreay was always over, like from the start. He was great. Okada and Mercedes really struggled to find their footing for a long time. And it's like these, Speedball and Kevin Knight, two people who weren't that, like, they didn't have the hype or the, multi-million-dollar contracts through the media or whatever. But, man, they've all delivered. Like, both of those guys have just done a fantastic job ever since they've come in. And even on the press call, Tony was saying how he regretted Kevin Knight being in the Best of Super Junior. And he was like, if I had known he was going to be so good and intricate, I wouldn't have let him go to Japan because we needed him more for TV. So those, and it shows you that Speedball has a fan in Tony Khan because he's been consistently booked. I think they've done a really good job with both the triple threat at Dynasty with Ricochet and Kenny, and now this with Okada. I think this is a good spot. Kind of like I said with Mercedes, Speedball's role is to have dream type of matches, like the indie legend, pretty much, and well, TNA as well, of course. But basically, the top indie person, and now you're seeing them in AEW and facing their roster of this loaded roster of talent. I think they've done a great job. And Bailey has gotten super over. So love everything about this. 8.50 rating. Definitely an 8 out of 10 at least here, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was like top 3 matches. Ooh, it's hard to say. Okay.
It's slightly the inmates have this match 4th.
So I gave this and the Mercedes and Jamie match the same rating, which is 4.25. So I'd go 8 for both.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say this is a tie for my 3rd favorite match of the night. Again, like this was a match that I feared might get or might fall to the side, just because of pay-per-view length and just overall match importance. But no, like this showed the fuck up. This was a sleeper.
Yeah, totally delivered. Really happy for Speedball. Like, so well deserved to be in this spot. The next match was the women's match with Mina Shirakawa versus Toni Storm. The big interest heading into this match was the controversy surrounding Mina Shirakawa's entrance music. I wish that they would release this song in full because I want to see if it was like truly as bad as people said it was as a full song. As an entrance song, it doesn't really fit her vibe. Like she needs, an entrance that's energetic to match her dancing and all that stuff. And the other one was like a trap beat song, and they had her rapping, which I'm sure was cool for her. But I don't know if it really fit her vibe. As I said, although she did make up her own dance for it. And to be fair, this song that she has is a complete ripoff of Danza Kuduro, which is a Don Omar song, like a Latin song. Like, what the fuck? But like a shameless ripoff, WCW like level of ripoff, like with Smells Like Teen Spirit and DDP's theme. That's what this song is in the modern era. But regardless, they go on and on. This crowd really felt like they were super on Tony's side here. And this was a really tough spot for Mina to be in. A babyface challenger with no real feud fighting the most popular person in the division. And by leaps and bounds, the most popular person.
There were people... Sorry.
Yeah. No, go on.
There were people, a lot of people in the crowd that I did not hear once all night. When Toni Storm came out, half of the audience that made no sound all night fucking lit up. There were people there purely to see Toni. I saw multiple people leave after this fucking match, of all things. So, like, she has such a real connection right now. And, like, it really, she felt... God, I mean, like Osprey and Hangman were really on another level tonight, but she really felt in terms of crowd response on that same level. And to see her live finally in this iteration, it's real. Like she is so good right now.
And I think that she's also melded the in-ring stuff a lot better, this year, especially since the Hollywood ending. I mean, that was like a spectacular match. I thought this was one of Mina's best matches, to be honest with you. Like, I can remember seeing in terms of a singles match. I thought this was one of her best performances. I really liked that they actually played off. Again, they didn't have a ton of time to build a storyline, but they at least gave us the leg angle to go home. That was like the go home segment of Dynamite was built around Tony. And obviously Sky Blue, because we can never get rid of her. Now that she's back, she will be on every TV show going forward. But I love that they actually worked that into this match. They had the figure four, which I will be fair here. That ring post figure four, Bret Hart was not amused by this because it was awful looking. Where Tony was tried her best to hang on to meet his leg to keep her from falling. Unlike Goldberg in their match. But they actually brought the leg stuff into this match. And I thought Tony sold pretty well. Mina had a good focus to her match that she usually doesn't have. She's usually like really into the charisma show woman side. You know, she's dancing. You know, she's shaking around. She's doing stuff. Here she actually wrestled pretty straight, like here, and I like that. I love the spot where Tony ended up hitting a backbreaker, but the knee like gave out on that. I broke up the fisherwoman suplex that they had too. They did some strike battle stuff. She ended up Mina looked for a big move on the outside, but Luther ended up jumping in the way. And that led to him like when he was down, he like jumped off his back into a splash onto Tony. I thought it was a pretty inventive way to get to that. They went on and they went for the glamorous driver. She finally hit it, but that was only a near fall. And they ended up teasing her looking for the Storm Zero, but that was dodged. Mina finally hit the figure four that they'd been teasing a bunch throughout the match, so it was a good story. But in the end, Tony just hit the headbutt and the Storm Zero. I actually kind of wish that this had not a ton more time, but another minute to build up to the finish, because it was kind of like she finally got the figure four. And once they did that, well, the story of the match was done, so let's just go home. They went right to the Storm Zero to win. I think if they'd had a more natural comeback, this would have been something really great. But instead, I still thought it was very good. It's in that 3 3/4 level to me, like 7. Between the 7 and 8, ideally. It just depends on which way you want to go with it. I'd probably go 7, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was a really strong match. One of Mina's best.
Yeah. This suffered from the fact that Mina was not going to win. So
yes, this had zero drama to it. At least the other one you could kind of like by Jamie potentially giving her a first loss here. This one it would have taken like an asteroid like flying into the arena and going directly into Tony Storm. And like that's the only way that Mina would have won this match.
Exactly. So I thought that they still had a great match, even with the constraint. Probably live bias, but I'd go 8 on this as well. I'd go 4 stars.
I think 4 stars is totally reasonable for this match, to be honest with you. It's got a 7.75 rating on Cage Match right now. Very good use of time. Again, I really have no complaints. I thought this was a very strong match. Again, on paper, this would have been probably among my least anticipated matches, but I thought they definitely over-delivered, to be honest. Very good. And I'm glad that they put it here, considering what was to come. Well, first of all, the big thing is they ended up teasing each other. They did kiss. And that got like literally one of the biggest reactions on this whole show.
So many people started doing the fucking yes chant, like they're 12 years old, seeing someone kiss for the first time.
Yeah, it was shameful actions from the Arizona crowd.
Did all of the perverts come through in the broadcast, Dylan?
I wasn't paying that close attention for that level. In general, I'm pretty much over all of this. They pretty much did this exact same bullshit last year with Mariah, and I didn't think it was any good then, and I still don't like it. But at least this time they had a really good match. So as long as we have good wrestling, I'll deal with your weirdo fan service stuff that the fans love for some reason. But still, I mostly blame Arizona crackheads and meth heads, as The Rock said that time when you were at that show. But they did do that, and then we got the Anarchy in the arena. We saw Swerve come out dressed like Predator. Omega had this like Captain America looking gear, and I was like, dude, you're from Canada. Like, what is this all about here? The Patriot, Kenny Omega, coming out here. They ended up doing this weird intro for the Young Bucks, where they were talking about like the Gettysburg Address, and I was like, "What the fuck, Fever Dream?" Like, what's going on here? Like, this didn't get over at all. Like, the crowd didn't know what to make of it. I don't fucking know what they were going on about. As I understand it, Arizona had no part in the Civil War 200 years ago, or so. So this reference made even less sense than it would anywhere else. I said this before on last week's show. I really think they've lost a lot of being the cool company. And I don't think I mentioned this specifically, but if I didn't, I'm going to mention it now. And if I did, I'll mention it again. I think one of a big issue with them, well, I did mention it a little bit with the rappers they would bring in stuff from 06, but also Tony, while she is extremely over and doing great work right now in general, this is still ultimately a character based around stuff from the 1950s. And now we have a promo dedicated to stuff from the 1850s. I think we could use some modernizing a little bit here, and this is probably something that could have been left on the cutting room floor. And then they do that, like, fucking annoying music they had starting out. Kenny changed it to like now rest in peace theme of I'm So Excited of Dynamite. What do you think of the Sum 41 they have, like, opening it now for Dynamite?
I didn't hear that. When did that start? I didn't watch this past week. Or past couple
what?
Weeks.
Yeah, I'm So Excited it's down. Like, no more. Sum 41's back. So, well, not back. They're new. I don't think they have any wrestling tide coming in, to be honest. But that's another one. Sum 41. They were big 20 years ago, like, if not longer. Like, going in there.
What song? What's Sum 41 song?
Oh fuck, I don't know. I just know it was them.
AEW.
Yeah, tell us what the song was.
You Wanted War. Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, I don't even know that song at all. The only song I know of theirs is Fat Lip. Like, to be honest with you, they were like somewhat adjacent to my musical taste, but not really. Like, I always looked at them as like a poor man's Blink 182 when I was a kid. The Canadian version, some would say. But yeah, I think it's a better choice than I'm So Excited, to be honest. That was a total fail. But again, another old school people. Enough with this. Get some modern fucking people on your show and references to make. But then they came in with Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, which is your highlight on here. I know you loved when that came on. Why weren't you weren't singing along with I'm So Excited, but you get Drowning Pool?
This was the coolest shit ever. This was top 3 live wrestling audience moments I've been part of. The other was like Second Gear Crew versus Mao and Chris Brooks and Yoshihiko versus Mao and Shin Matsumoto. Bloodsport, just in general. And then this are probably like my 3 favorite wrestling crowd experiences. And I've been to fucking Mania, so like Mania doesn't have shit on this, honestly. Mania is like you were in a sea of people and the whole crowd could be chanting and everyone in your section is fucking quiet. So like it's very weird and detached. You can feel very disconnected from it all. You're usually watching on the screen. Like, this was pure fucking energy and vibes. How did it come through at home? I have not watched clips yet. So, like, were we loud?
Awesome. Yes.
It was cool.
Yes. Everything about this was awesome. Pretty much. Like, this match was fucking incredible.
So, something that was when Justin Roberts said, "Everyone stand, it's Anarchy in the arena." From that moment up until when Osprey and Paige started wrestling, pretty much the entire audience stayed standing. No one sat down.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah, I mean, this match was. I thought this was the best one since the first one. I feel like a lot of the Anarchy in the arenas before this one tried to do what the first one did, and it never quite hit the same level that the first one did. And I think it was a tough spot to compare it because they always do it at the same time every year, and that's something I really don't like. I wish that we could have Anarchy be its own thing and not just, oh, Double or Nothing's coming around. It's time for Anarchy in the arena. But this year's was so special. They had so many crazy spots. I think having the women in there totally helped this match stand out among its contemporaries. The musical stuff. This was the first time we really had a rotating list of songs. Remember last year where they had the guy in the band that like got super kicked? I don't even remember who the hell they were, but somebody was coming out wearing blackface one year. It was a totally fucking weird scene.
Yeah.
yeah, that whole shit was horrible. But this was cool. You had Hobbs fly into the speakers to cut off the music. I thought they were like you had Swerve.
Oh, no, Claudio swung Swerve into the speakers.
Oh, it was Swerve.
And then Hobbs tackled Claudio through all of the gear right next to it.
Okay, that's what it was. Because that's what. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, I remember Hobbs spearing him through the stuff. But you're right. You might be right. Swerve was the one that knocked it out. Well, Claudio knocked it out via Swerve. Swerve fucking got his fucking tongue stapled here, which looked insane. Just an absolutely like disaster of a match. You had Gabe Kidd in there, going in there. They did some stuff with everybody. The stuff with the tax as well. Through Kenny's mouth, they did that. With that, I think Gabe Kidd did that as well, and that led to the Death Riders getting the big advantage. Then, in the end, Omega hits Matt Jackson with the one-winged angel off the stage, through the table. Shit goes off, and the Swerve Stomp connects to Nick in the ring, and it was a big win for the baby faces. So I'm sure we'll wait in a couple of months and we'll see Blood and Guts as it is every year with some variation of these same people. But this match was crazy great. I have to say, I thought it was so exciting. Just complete madness. I'm going to watch the show again tomorrow with Ken, and I can't wait to watch this match again. And I'm usually not somebody who's super interesting stuff multiple times. But I'm so looking forward to this. This was such a fun match. Just a great performance. 9.27 rating above the inmates, and I definitely think this is up there. This is easily a 4.5-star match, in my opinion. You could go even higher, and one of the best of the year. I would give it 9 out of 10.
Live experience, 10 out of 10. Match, 9.
And it was so, like, I definitely could see this being one of those matches that lingers with me. You know, like at the end of the year when we're talking about match of the year, this had so many memorable spots. And I thought that that's what the last couple of these versions of matches were lacking. And this one, they really worked hard to make it stand out. And the crowd loved the win. I think the thing is, this was so crazy that it'll stand out anyway. But I do think at the end of the day, the main event will be the most remembered match on the show. Especially if, Hangman wins the title at the end of it. But I definitely think this was 100% on the level with the first Anarchy in the Arena, which is very well remembered. And I think that the show really kicked into another gear here What did you think of the idea? Because I definitely think this could have been the main event, to be honest with you. Would you have done it like they did it, or would you have had this the main event?
I would have done this and then cut the fucking Cole match
Yeah,
after
let's
and
cut
gone
that.
straight into the main event. We could have, like, the bathroom line was longer during the Adam Cole match than it was before the show started.
Common occurrence.
Everyone after our Anarchy in the Arena said, "I'm getting the fuck out of here for the next 5 minutes." I think that if you would have just done Anarchy in the Arena, once the match finished, you just do, big ending to it, walk up the ramp, say goodbye, all that stuff, blah, 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 play your video package, go straight into the main event. There was no need for as much as I love all 6 competitors in the next match, it's crazy that like a PWG, a prime PWG, like Reseda 6 man was like the most, the worst match on the card. I don't know. One of my favorite comments all night was on the squared circle thread for Anarchy in the Arena. And the top comment was like, now I have to watch a fucking Adam Cole match or something like that. Or you expect me to watch a fucking Adam Cole match now? But yeah, it's this like just to tie it up, Anarchy in the Arena was fantastic. It like I feel like if I watched the show from home and I wound up not going, this would have made me feel like I missed out. And I'm really happy I went
Yeah.
solely for this match, if anything else. Like, this was worth the price of admission. And then everything else that came after was pretty much just the cherry on top. But not the Adam Cole match.
Also, I feel like maybe Tony did listen to our show last week. And when I mentioned my part about the titles being a weak point for the company, and I suggested that the TNT and TBS titles, their gimmick as belts, pretty much being that they're on TV every week, that they wrestle on TV every week, a new match defense every week. He said, Dylan, fuck off. Because what did we see on Collision? Adam Cole on commentary. And he's not defended this belt in months, this TNT title. Why is he the champion? Like, what's going on here? You don't want to have him have matches. So how can you be the TV champion and not on TV? And I thought for sure that this match would set up a challenger for him and at least have a purpose to it. I wasn't excited. Nobody was. But I just think that you would at least set something up. And I mean, I guess you could say that Fletcher could be the one because he did get the win at the end of the day. But he didn't even hit it on Cole. So it just, he hit it on O'Reilly. So what was even the point of this match? I don't know.
Bathroom. It's so I could go and smoke in the bathroom before Anarchy in the Arena. That was why this. I mean, before the main event, that was why this match existed. And so I could get another hot dog. So in that sense, I was grateful.
How are the hot dogs at the Desert Diamond Arena?
Stale, unfortunately.
Oh also, man, that arena's a piece of shit. The seats are only let you have half of your ass, and you get stale hot dogs.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Yeah, no, this I was really happy I came back in for the post match because I've never seen Tanahashi before. I was actually going to try to go to his last New Japan date here in America because I thought that was the last time he was coming to America before he retired, and I was really bummed I missed it. So again, tonight I was like, wow, that's bucket list. Awesome. So I was really, really happy to see Tanahashi. And Ishii. I've never seen Ishii live before either.
And yes, and he will be representing the Puerto Rico Day show coming up very soon, as you would expect him to, is where he belongs in the wrestling world, facing Mike Santana, which should be a banger match, to be honest with you. I'm super hyped to watch that, in all honesty. But I will say this. I think Cole is 100% better in a team than just as a singles run, which makes his TNT run so baffling. These should be the trios champions. Like, just let them be the fucking 6-man champions. That's all you need. Like, they're fine. They come out to End of Heartache once again, which I was so thankful that they brought back from the stupid Kingdom theme song or whatever they had. I think this match too, first of all, this could have been on, this wasn't even a Dynamite match, it was a Collision match. Secondly, this Don Callis family, this act is so stale. There's nothing wrong with the wrestlers at all. We all love Kyle Fletcher. We all love Takeshita. Alexander is a very good signing for the company. It's been used very frequently too. Even Archer, like good big man. But the act is so stale. He's been doing the same thing for years on end. The commentary gimmick and just being his obnoxious self since the days of Sammy Guevara being in there, as we mentioned earlier. And Paragon, they've been doing the same act for a decade at this point. And so there's no real upside to either of these groups, in my opinion. At least with Callis family, you get a bunch of guys having banger matches whenever they're on. And I think you could have that with Strong and O'Reilly. And again, even with Cole as a trios, I think it could work. I just wish that they would freshen these things up again. And I guess their idea for that is to throw in Tanahashi, Ishii, and Brody King, the new version of House of Black, has coming to save them. Hounds of Hell are dead. House of Black, led by Tanahashi, is back. Why was Brody King involved with these guys? This makes no fucking sense.
It didn't make any sense. I imagine that this is setting up some ridiculous Dynamite match.
Yeah,
Maybe.
What stipulation could this be with all of these people?
I don't know. I really don't know.
First ever Anarchy in the Arena on TV featuring these people.
Oh, give me another one. I'm so down.
That would be hilarious. Like Tanahashi in an Anarchy in the Arena match. I want this. Also, we didn't really talk about it. The one thing we left out. Well, I mentioned it briefly, but I want your thoughts on it in greater depth. What do you think of Gabe Kidd being involved in this storyline?
I was excited to see him live. I'm happy I got to see him. I felt like he wound up being like a real non-factor in the match in the end. Like his contributions didn't really amount to anything. Like I feel like he made a save and that's about it. But he just got locked in the ambulance. Like he feels very different under Jon Moxley than he does as a top war dog in New Japan.
And a lot of people, it's really hurt his rep, actually, like this whole deal. A lot of Japanese fans are not happy with this because it goes against his perceived character, the hero of New Japan will never leave, which anybody who has like any kind of brain cells knows that that's all bullshit, that he will leave eventually when he gets offered more money. But like that was his character, the lion mark on the tights. And basically everyone's calling him a fraud now for this, like working for AEW when he talked a crazy shit about them. On top of it, working with the team that worked with the House of Torture, which was the War Dogs' main rivals recently. So no storyline continuity to this. I don't mind him being involved in this because I think it's clear they're kind of testing the waters for how far they can go with him. I hated that he was such a cheap way to end the cage match with Joe and Mox to have his interference. It just felt like they needed an ace in the hole for that match. And because he wasn't even in this match, pretty much, and he didn't need to be. Like you said, his involvement was totally superfluous. This match would not have been changed if he was not involved in any of this at all, but they needed an out for the cage match, and he was the one they turned to. Let's hope it doesn't, let's hope this isn't something the fans remember too much in Japan, because the initial reaction was very negative on him, to be honest. But regardless, more Tanahashi, though. We will always have positive reactions towards him. and we will always have positive reactions to the main event. The final of the Adam Page Memorial Tournament, the final of the Owen Hart Memorial Cup Tournament. Hangman Adam Page versus Will Ospreay. I love the build to this match. I think they did a phenomenal job on the promos. I love the segments. I think that every wrestling company, WWE could definitely take a lesson from this build, and I think that AEW should do it with pretty much every main event they have on pay-per-view, where they showed, like, they interviewed a bunch of fans literally outside of the building at Dynamite and was asking about who's going to win, Hangman or Ospreay. And all these different fans made their predictions. I would have done it with the fans, and I would have done a separate segment with all the wrestlers on the roster making predictions. Like, make it feel like this epic match. This felt like a worthy main event despite no title being on the line because of the great build. What did you think of their promos leading up to it?
So I did not watch Dynamite this past Wednesday. I did, however, go out of my way to check out their promo segment. It completely sold me on it in terms of it being the main event spot. Really elevated my expectations even higher, if that was possible. I will say they did meet them. And yeah, I mean, just really like all-timer promo work from both guys.
My only problem is I thought this go home segment was a little too similar to the one they did a couple of weeks ago when the Callis family came out. Because this was kind of, they hit on a lot of the same themes. They went a little deeper in it with this one, and it was like more depthful. I think it would have meant more if they had not done the first promo. This was the first time we saw them talk like this. I thought Hangman was phenomenal in his part. The part where he was like, because the whole segment was Ospreay screaming about how, like, he needs this win so much. Like, he wants to bring it home. He wants to fight the Death Riders. And the fans love him. He had to earn respect, blah, blah, blah. And then Hangman started off yelling too back. But then there was a part where he was like, I know how much you want this, but I need it. And he got really somber there. And that made his promo that much more powerful and realistic, where he was talking about his wife and his child and all of that. Because the week prior, they did the promo where Ospreay was like, this isn't about your redemption. It's about my ascension, which was a great line. But still, like, Page really knocked it out of the park with his delivery. Ospreay was wrestler promo, which was good, and he was passionate. But I really liked how real Page felt in his segment. But both guys had good motivations. I like that they each had great character work in the promo, where it was like, Hangman, the title, it's not just about the title, it's this other part that makes it personal. Whether it's Hangman getting his family back to believing in him again, and that he's a good person overall, and Ospreay to get the title to bring back to his home in England for Forbidden Door. I think that's a great factor that you could only do this year and in this situation with Ospreay. And I thought by the end of it too, I don't know about you, Nello, but I thought this was a 50-50 match. Like, most of the matches on this card, I thought I was pretty sure who was going to win on most of them. Like, if we had done a pick-em match before, I would say pretty much every match played out as I expected it to. To this point, they were pretty easy to predict. But this one was 50-50 for me. I didn't know who was going to win. I thought this match felt like a huge match. Like, the crowd was so hot for this.
So we talked about it before, and in my head, I justified it that Hangman Page is from Texas, and he's billed from Texas. so he must be winning.
Yeah.
Dylan, when this match started and they announced him from Virginia, the way that my heart sank and I convinced myself that Osprey was winning and I was wrong. And then so that was a hell of a twist for me to endure.
That is true. He is from Virginia.
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean Virginia?
But he is a cowboy though, so that you're practically from Texas at that point if you're a cowboy.
Exactly. He's the third son from Texas.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, especially after Mercedes won and they didn't have Jamie go over, I felt like this was almost like just as hard to predict because I felt so confident in Jamie winning. That I really thought that she was going to be the first person to upset Mercedes. Mercedes feuds with Athena going into All In Texas because Athena actually is from Texas.
Yeah, she is
that for Texas. A fact. I know that. But yeah, it's it was really exciting to go into. I was hoping for them to go long as hell, and they did.
They did. Yes, that was not a worry. I knew that was going to happen. And this match didn't start until like 11 o'clock at night Central Time. So I was like, holy shit, with all of this. But I didn't give a fuck. They could have gone double the time they went, and it would have been a great match. 9.54 rating. I thought this match was so fucking great. I have to say, and I think this is one of the few times because I've been pretty critical of Osprey of this in the past, where I think a lot of times, yeah, he does a lot of cool stuff and his matches feel epic by the end, but a lot of times it's forced epic, you know? I think he's not a very good actor in the ring most of the time. But I think this, and I mean, we've seen glimpses of it. I thought in the Dog Pound cage match, his last match in New Japan, I thought that was another instance where the melodrama was earned, actually. And that made it, when it hits, it's fucking amazing. If it doesn't hit, which it usually doesn't, I think it's cheesy. But this match, it felt earned. Because the circumstances, the stakes, the main event spot, the crowd, this felt like one of the biggest matches of all time, even without a title on the line. And I thought this totally delivered. I thought these guys worked an incredibly physical match. The effort was great. I thought that they really did some great stuff. And I loved the spot at the end. How did you feel about this? Because I've seen some mixed reactions to this. Hangman looking for the big pressure and Osprey using the one-winged angel. And that was like at the pivotal moment of the match.
I fucked with that so hard.
Me too. I thought that was... I didn't expect that at all, to be honest. But it's such a great spot, though. Because we've all been saying... Me and you have talked about this months ago. About the potential of Hangman and Swerve teaming up together. Like, this is a great chapter in that storyline. And we talked about it. They've set it up so well. They did that segment where Swerve admitted, he was like, where Hangman was like, you deserve to have your house burned down. And Swerve said, I know. And that really set Hangman off in his world. That was like an amazing segment and a great turn in their story. Then they had last month where Hangman came out where it looked like he was going to help Swerve win, but we'll never know for sure. And now he used Swerve's move to help him get to the title, which the whole point, a big point of the promo they had was Osprey saying, you haven't been that guy forever because you've been too focused on Swerve to go after the title, and I can't have that bullshit. I need to fight the best version of Hangman, because if I can beat the best version of Hangman, I know I can beat Moxley, but you're too focused on Swerve. And now this time, Hangman still is true to his character that he's always had. This man is still focused on Swerve Strickland, and this time, though, instead of manifesting it and it letting him drive him off the rails, taking him away from happiness, taking him away from his goals, taking away from what he wants in life. Instead, he took that obsession with Swerve and used it to help him win. And this is a new gradual character shift that's not a cheesy out of character moment. Instead, he built upon his pre-existing character. I thought it was a great narrative choice and very cool. And of course, in the end, that's not enough. Instead, he wins with a buckshot lariat. 37 minutes here of just awesome pro wrestling. What'd you think?
Yeah. I mean, this is up there, like top 3 favorite matches of this year so far. This, Saray Siri, and that Takeda Kasai Desperado 3-way. This is pro wrestling at its highest level. I had such high expectations for this match. This match exceeded those expectations. I am a generational Hangman Adam Page lover, and this match only solidified my love for him and belief that he is the beating heart and soul of AEW and the guy to take the belt off Moxley. When Swerve was going for Moxley, it felt like the right time. Now it feels even more like the right time. Like it's Hangman's turn again. I really want to see what he can do with a world title with like this new maturity in his character. Man, it's a beautiful story we're part of.
I think that it would still be great if Ospreay had won. Like, I think we would still be all excited for him going for the belt. But you're right. Like, that's the ultimate thing I think they've come to realize is that Hangman is the heart and soul of AEW. And I have to give them a lot of credit, to be honest with you. Because we, and not just we, especially me, and a lot of other people, hated this Death Rider stuff. But I think between the Anarchy match and now the ultimate payoff of Hangman winning the belt at All In, which, I mean, if Hangman loses, then this company is like WCW level bad. Like, I can't even imagine a scenario where Hangman does not win that belt at All In. But let's take it that he wins. That's going to be a huge moment. And in the end, this Death Riders angle will have been okay. Like, they pulled it back from like one of the worst angles in the company's history to being okay by having these epic moments. It's still like a really directionless and bullshit storyline, like narratively. Like, if you look at all of the retcons and shit that they've had to do with it, it's really bad storytelling. Like, that cannot change no matter how big the pop is for Hangman winning. But at the end of the day, between the Anarchy, the cage match with Joe, like, that was very exciting. The fans are into it. The fans love seeing the Death Riders lose. They've at least made this storyline okay, largely through the in-ring efforts of the wrestlers more than any kind of great storytelling. Unlike the Hangman character, which not only has amazing wrestling, but is also arguably the best, like the most complete character in wrestling of any company, in my opinion. So, yeah, I thought this was like definitely among the best matches of the year. Would you take this or the Hollywood ending for AEW's matches? Would you put this above that?
Ooh, Page and
Yeah,
Ospreay?
Page and Ospreay. Yeah.
Yes.
Would you have this above the Takeshita and Ospreay match on TV, which got a ton of praise?
Yes.
That didn't have these stakes, like the Takeshita and Ospreay TV match.
It's the stakes. It's the platform.
Yeah.
This felt like watching Kobashi versus Akiyama at like the big Noah show in 2004. Like
Yeah,
it
so
felt
except the right
like
person won this time.
I
Yeah.
mean, it felt like your two top talents, like your real two top talents in the fans' eyes, um, like going at it. And one guy was going to come out on top. You had to hope that it was going to be clean and not some bullshit, and it was.
Yes, thank God
But
it
like
was.
this, and I say like Masa or Kobashi Akiyama or like I don't know. I've been watching so much old wrestling lately, but
Nothing wrong with that.
it had the feel of like yes, this is a 36-minute pro wrestling main event at the highest level. Like this is one of the great AEW's matches, period.
This was like an all-in main event level. And part
Yeah.
of me kind of regrets that it's not, actually. Like, I wish this was the title match at all, and not the end of the Death Rider story, but these two, because they're the ones who deserve it, to be honest. Osprey, again, feels like an odd man out in the company. And it's funny because, like, he's constantly, like, adored by the Meltzer, the internet fans and stuff like that, like the analysts and whatnot. Not just him, Voices of Wrestling, all the others. They always put Osprey over as this huge, like, Wrestler of the Year candidate every year. And he's had so many great matches. And really, like, his character doesn't have that much depth, actually, like, compared to a Hangman. Like, he really doesn't have anything like that to hook you in. It's really only that he's this incredible wrestler. And they tried to do a little bit with, like, bringing it home, which I know is a playoff of the World Cup, which England will never, ever win, like, overall. But here they have a chance to do it with Osprey. But his character is not that deep when you think about it. He's just an amazing performer in the ring that everyone loves. But through his in-ring work alone, he feels like one of the top stars in the company. And it feels like they just don't. I don't think they've really figured out how to get the most out of him yet, because it feels like he's about to be the odd man out again, come into All In. But on the other
Yeah.
hand, at least he won't be wrestling Jericho like he did at the All In London.
Oh my God, don't remind me. Yeah,
Yeah.
what do you see Osprey doing, assuming that, you know, an Omega, an Okada,
Yep.
uh Tony Mercedes, Hangman, Moxley are your top three matches. Where does Osprey fit in?
I think you could have had it. And that's another thing with Osprey. If Osprey had won, then you have the team up with Hangman and Swerve at All In. Like, that's a natural spot for Hangman to go at that point. With Osprey, it feels like he's kind of lost now. And he's going to have a banger match, but I don't think it will have much storyline relevance.
And you know what? Maybe they'll do something really crazy and pull something wild out. They could also go back to Osprey Ricochet, maybe.
That would
Because
be good.
the dynamic is very different now.
Yeah. With the heel, we get to see heel Ricochet versus Osprey. That could be interesting.
Because the last time they fought was kind of like when Ricochet turned heel, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, and those matches didn't live up to expectations. Pretty much. Like, that was when they had the toilet thrown in the ring, the toilet paper thrown, because Swerve was feuding with Ricochet.
Happy
It wasn't
New
really.
Year, Trevor.
Yeah, exactly. Like Osprey and Ricochet's beef was like a very like non-existent practically. That was just a tournament match. So to have a real feud with them, if they can, and I mean they've got months now between this and All In, if they want to concoct something. I don't love. I will say this. Some would say hindsight's 2020, but I'm using foresight on this one because I don't like that Forbidden Doors in August. Like, I think it should be in June. That's a great buffer, like a last stop before All In. And now the schedule's so weird this year. I think that's a bit of a loss. Although it did give you this little story nugget with Osprey, I don't think it's worth not having a big show like one last stop to set up things heading into All in my personal opinion. But Ospreay at All In, Ricochet, and again crafting a storyline with him, I think is good. I think he's mentioned his family so many times, like that's an easy avenue for any heel character to go after, pretty much. Like if they bring in Alex Windsor and something happens, like that's an easy storyline to drive Ospreay to a next level and give him a bit of a character, like a character upgrade, a character boost. I could see him. What I don't want to see is him versus Fletcher again. Like that issue has been settled, and I don't really need to see it revisited. What about him versus Darby, like number one contender type of deal?
That would be cool. Gets his win back from Darby.
Yeah, Darby coming back from Mount Everest.
And then he loses to Hangman again.
Yeah, in London this time. But yeah, like I said, whatever match he has is probably going to be great. But from a storyline perspective, I don't think they're getting anything out of him, and I don't even think they want to, really. He just feels like an afterthought storyline-wise at the moment. Like I said, he's great because he's a great wrestler, and he cut a hell of a promo. Like, he's cut a bunch of good promos. It's not just him. He's very passionate, at least. But I hope that they have a story for him to really give his character some depth. But yeah, this match fucking ruled, like, for sure. I think, nobody would blame you for voting this a 10 out of 10. I mean, 9.54 is a pretty incredible rating. We'll see if that sticks. Again, we're very early on. But I had this at 4 3/4. Which would be like a 10 on Cage Match for me.
I agree. Same.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. Well, I think overall, this, even if you want to say, okay, I enjoyed whatever match better, maybe this one was too long for some people. Like I said, I think this was one of the few matches that actually earned its time, its length, and it felt like a deserved epic and not a forced one. And I think that's very rare, because that's kind of an epidemic in wrestling these days. And there's been tons of matches that have done this stuff, and I don't think it's hit. But I thought this one really did, and I love the story beat at the end with the Swerve stuff and the Omega stuff. Maybe that was a clue. Maybe it'll be a triple threat for him and Okada and Omega coming in, which would be a little disappointing. But yeah, this show, yes, it was long, but you're not gonna get me to come on here and criticize a show with those two, the Anarchy match and the fucking main event. This was awesome. I thought it was a great show, and it deserves a lot of credit. Right now, it's a 9.47 as a show, which has to be one of the highest rated shows of the year so far.
Yeah, that's up there with the Stardom show. I don't know if I'd go that. I mean, I'd probably go like
it's not as hard.
10.
Yeah.
I had a really good time.
Yeah, it's not as high as the Stardom show. Like in my opinion, I mean, I liked it. Don't get me wrong; it was a great show, but that was like one of the all-time high. Like that's literally like I think the highest rated show, like on Cage Match. Like that's not a tribute show. Let's see here. Okay, it's come down a little bit. The Stardom show did. It's below Wrestle Kingdom 9, Dominion 2017, 2018, and the Spring Break Dynamite this year. The one with Ospreay and Takeshita, the match I mentioned. On there. Those are the only shows rated ahead of Stardom show. But still, though, this show would be still in the top 10, At that point, it would be like right behind WrestleMania 17 at that point, which shows you how high the quality is. But yeah, I think that's a little high. 9 out of 10 feels right. And plus, there was some stuff on here that could have been on TV, like the Paragon match. The Hurt Syndicate tag was more of an angle. And as good as the match itself was, Ricochet and Briscoe was like, that could have been a TV match again. Like that could have been a TV main event. Didn't feel like a big deal. But still, like that match was awesome. you had Jamie and Mercedes, which was like really good signs of life from Jamie, which I was really looking forward and hoping for. You had Tony and Mina, which I thought was Mina's best singles match so far. So I thought it was a hell of a show. 9 out of 10. I agree. So yeah, this was awesome. Really cool that we got to do this show like on the same night you went. How you feeling, man? After all of this, like we went late into the early hours, late night, early morning. How you feeling?
Full of love.
I'm full of love too.
Yeah. Just feeling good, grateful for friendships, for pro wrestling. It's a good time.
The two things I can count on most, you and pro wrestling, Nello. Truly, because my heart is so full of love, but it's always been rejected.
Oh.
Nobody loves me, Nello. But pro wrestling loves Dylan. Nello loves Dylan. And you, the Wrestle Update listeners, all love Dylan. And I appreciate that so much. And super hyped to do the show. Really cool that we get it out tonight. And can't wait for everybody to listen to it. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And in addition to the great live perspective from Nello here, do you have any other stories, fans you want to call out? That are some annoying assholes.
Oh man. No, not off the top of my head, but I'll think for the next show as well, just in case I need to come back.
What about any negatives about the arena, which I think might be the worst part of the show, for the sounds of it, is the arena itself?
Yeah, I mean the arena was fine. Like the seats were really good. It's crazy. Like it's $160 for seats that would have cost like $800-$900 at WWE, which is just so crazy to think about. So ticket prices were good. The sound was good. The screens were nice. Like one of my only nitpicks is one of the screens they play on, like when they project videos on it, it's not the right aspect ratio, but that's really it. Other than that, I was very satisfied with the live experience.
The hot dogs suck, though.
Yes, stale hot dogs. Bastards.
Should have gotten nachos, in my opinion.
Next time.
Okay. That's up to you. I don't want to dictate what you do. You live your best life, and I will support you no matter how many bullshit hot dogs these wrestling criminal events serve you, and all of the rest of the wonderful fans of AEW. But with that said, as always, super late at night. Well, that's not as always. That's very rare. But as always, show's ending. The floor is yours. Whatever you want to say. Now is the time. We're going away for a few days. So you have to say what you want to say now. There may not be another chance for a week or so.
Ooh.
A lot of pressure. I apologize for putting it on you.
No, that's okay. Fuck. I should start thinking. I'm going to start writing down things to say at the end of these episodes because I never know what to say. If pro wrestling is coming to a town near you and you want to go, if you have friends, if you don't have friends, just fucking go. You will have a good time. You will make friends. There will be perverts next to you who yell things that you can yell back at. It's a wonderful time. It's a great community. Check it out. Take the leap.
Take the leap. What a great message. We've only got one life to live, my friends. Do you want to sit on your deathbed, about to pass away, on to the next life to listen to Afterlife Wrestle Update with Dylan and Nello? And do you want to sit there and think to yourself, damn, why didn't I go to that show that came to my hometown that time? Why didn't I go? Do you want to be like Dylan and his Mayday Parade tickets last month in the show I didn't get to go to, which I'll regret for the rest of my life? No, you don't want to do that. You want to go and see all of the action, all of your favorites, all of the crazy-ass fans that are there. There may be perverts. There may be weirdos that are not perverted. And there may just be weirdos who are both weird and perverted. But the fact is, there will be wrestling fans. You will be there. You will have a good time, and you will be able to tune in to Wrestle Update with Dylan and Nello, always having your back, always giving you love, because I know that you know one thing more than anything else. That you know I love you. And until the next time, this has been your Wrestle Update.